an endurable situation, which is, of course, our happy home. The other thing that was particularly infuriating was that it was said, oh, you know, we're not making the parents feel guilty. Why should you feel guilty? You know, you had a hard time too, and who can help what they are, and you didn't do it on purpose. You know, it's like saying that, yeah, your child is blind because you threw acid in its face, but don't feel bad. And of course, the cure was to take the child completely away and do all your wonderful psychoanalytic things, and then the real child inside would emerge. Well, we felt it was a load of nonsense. We were so lucky. You see, we had 3 normal, wonderful children. We had no doubt we brought them up in the same way and felt the same way about them. There was nothing we could have done that would have been so devastating and so different from what we'd done to the others.
The pendulum started to swing, at least in America, in the 1960s. Partly, I think, with the epidemic of German measles one saw then. And German measles in the first trimester and the first 3 months of pregnancy can lead to all sorts of brain changes. It can lead to deafness, it can lead to blindness, it can lead to retardation, it can lead to autism. And one saw a sudden rise of autism in this population. In the children of mothers who had had German measles, which obviously is very strongly suggestive that something happened to the brain.
This is basically the effect that the prior...
Today, there are several emerging theories about the neurological basis of autism.
I guess for me, when I talked to an autistic person years ago, I got the impression that change was frightening. And so I began to wonder, what might it be that could make them so frightened of change? And as a neuroscientist, I began to wonder what parts of the nervous system might be affected that might impair their ability to deal with change, to apprehend the unpredictable. That's what drove me to the question of whether the cerebellum might be involved in autism. The cerebellum is located back here, and it's about the size of my fist, maybe a tad bit bigger. The cerebellum is one of the biggest structures in the brain. There are as many neurons in the cerebellum as there are in the entire rest of the brain put together. It really is the biggest neural computing device in your brain.
For me, in my generation, the cerebellum was a very beautiful object. It means the little brain under the cerebral hemispheres, which was supposed to be concerned only with control of movement, with motor control, with touching your nose. Although I think one always thought, why such a magnificent organ for such a little function?
What does the cerebellum do for you? Well, it allows you, I suppose, to keep track of all the little things that people do. You know, the change in posture, the nodding of the head, the sound from off to one side. Imagine yourself at a dinner table with a bunch of friends in a restaurant with lots of noise and lots of clatter and people talking back and forth. How do you keep track of all of that? What is it in your brain that allows your attention to effortlessly shift from one person to another person? How do you effortlessly keep a conversation going at the same time that you're reaching across a cluttered space and grab a glass without knocking things over? And I believe that the cerebellum is one of the structures that's crucial to allow you to do all these different kinds of auditory, visual, and tactile and motor things effortlessly, accurately, and speedily. Just right on time, so that you don't have to think about it. Now, what would it be like if you were in the same situation, but you didn't have a structure that allowed you to do all of those things effortlessly? What would it be like? Perhaps one of the most important events in the history of autism was the discovery that autism involves a loss of neurons within the cerebellum, and that this loss of neurons occurred very early in development.
Was it 1992?
Could Chain's theory may throw light on some of the problems of the autistic? but it leaves other aspects unexplained.
It's on me.
For example, their almost universal inability, at least at an early age, to sense others' mental states or intentions, or indeed their own.
Yes.
This strange mind blindness, as it has been called, may lead to a complete lack of understanding in social situations, and not infrequently to sudden panics and explosions. We saw one of these on a cold afternoon in Williamstown. We had been warned by Jessie's mother not to ply her with too many questions.
Lift off.
What and how questions in particular. For several minutes, we watched patiently as Jessie pored over an old ledger. Then, fatefully, the director's curiosity got the better of him.
What are you looking for?
Oh, too many words.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Sorry to snap at you.
Don't ask me that, Jessie had roared. Unintentionally, we had breached her defences.
Yes.
It's okay, Jess. He didn't realize he's not supposed to ask you what questions. So.
We had overloaded the fragile structure of her world by asking an impermissible question.
I felt ashamed about snapping.
I know you're not feeling happy about that.
Yes.
But you behaved so beautifully all the weekend.
Yes.
And you remember, you don't have a record anymore to break.
Yes.
So it's just a little snap that you had.
Yes.
So you can just, can you possibly forget about it?
Yes.
This was the first time, Clara told me later, that she had ever seen Jessie express embarrassment over such an outburst. Such belated social and moral awareness not uncommonly develops in the autistic as they advance through adult life, as if certain brain systems were finally maturing. There are degrees of mind blindness among autistic people. Warden, unlike Jessie, appears to have some awareness of the mental states of others. He seems to know that his rituals are strange and can talk about this. One afternoon, we came upon him in the playroom. He was watching a freeze frame of a videotape. He had been there for 30 minutes, just looking at the same thing.
It's not Coronation Street or film like that you usually see in England. It's a movie. It's Columbia twice-star picture. She looks the weirdest at the spot with makeup, and her eyelashes stands up. And you could put the camera to her eyes and see how different it looks. Because her eyelashes doesn't look normal because she wore now makeup.
I was struck by Warden's understanding of this fixation. He had found a way of not allowing change to occur, and was keen that I should know about the comfort this brought him. And in the act of telling me, he acknowledged my existence.
This light to it, everything still gives you a full feeling. You know what I mean? Gives you a full attention. When something quick, you don't get the full idea of it. When something's still, you take a look at it and to know the whole look and feeling.
With the pause button of the remote control, Warden has temporarily stopped time and all the uncertainties it brings. Interestingly, Warden knew that this habit was irritating. He was conscious of the disapproval of other minds.
Every time I do this, my parents get annoyed. because they're afraid you're going to break the VCR, but can't help it. Very weird, isn't it? That's what I do.
Not uncommonly, autistic people are into numbers. Numbers don't change. 3 is always 3. So I think the fear of change that Warden allays with the freeze frame can also be allayed with a gratifying invariance of numbers. You'll find a blank page. Okay. Ashish is deeply autistic. He does not speak. I'm going to give you a sum. He finds his haven in the world of numbers. Would you like to divide 7 into that?
No. No.
I don't know what this sound means. It's a sort of an internal sound which goes with cogitation or with arriving at the right answer. He knows it's going right. He has a sense of control and ability and power here, and he's in a landscape he knows. The landscape of numbers, one of invariance, so that 7 into this will always be that. I think you may see a familiar number. Okay. That's right, it's the same number. Okay. Jessie also had a similar number obsession. Her father showed me sheets of elaborate